Right. I'm live. I'm just waiting for Tommy mostly. I don't care about any of you all, just Tommy. Tommy is the one Bible viewer. The one biblical boy. Okay, here we go. Wonderful. Right. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. This is the Bible I was reading. Yes, Tommy's here. Okay, right. Previously on the Bible, this dude was meant to be the king, but he sold his right to be a king for a glass of soup. Totally worth it in my opinion. Like, soup is just wonderful. Nothing can top it. Right. If it would like to, please, can I have Genesis chapter 26? If you could be so kind. Right, okay. Genesis chapter 26, the promise reaffirmed to Isaac. This is going to be a long stream. I'm planning on making this one like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I kind of want to finish Genesis in this stream, but I doubt I'll be able to do that. There was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, at Gerar. The Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land that I will tell you about. Stay in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and bless you. For I will give all these lands to you and your offspring, and I will confirm the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky. I will give your offspring all of these lands, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring, because Abraham listened to me and kept my mandate, my commands, my statutes, and my instructions." So Isaac settled in Gerar. Isaac's deception. When the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say my wife, thinking, "The men of the place will kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is a beautiful woman." When Isaac had been there for some time, Abimelech, son of the king of the Philistines, looked down from the window and was surprised to see Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. Abimelech sent out for Isaac and said, "So she is really your yeah, Abraham the simping pimp, obviously." Ab- Abimelech sent for Isaac and said, "So she is really your wife? How could you say she is my sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might die on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What have you done to us? One of the people could easily have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us." So Abimelech warned all the people, "Whoever harms this man or his wife will certainly be put to death." Didn't Abraham make literally that exact mistake, and he didn't warn his son about it? Gee, great parenting. Uh, what's his name? Oh, I thought I'd be able to remember. What's his name? The old man, the bowler dude. Abraham, that's his name. Isaac sowed seed in that land, and one year he reaped 100 times what was sown. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich, and kept getting richer until he was very wealthy. He had flocks of sheep, herds of cattle, and many slaves, and the Philistines were envious of him. Philistines stopped up the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham, filling them with dirt. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Leave us, for ye are much too powerful for us." Gee, what's Isaac gonna do? Little Isaac boy. He's just gonna live in a tent like his father. Or maybe he'll take over the world, I don't know. So Isaac left there, camped in the Gerar Valley, and lived there. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, and that the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham died. He gave them the same names his father had given them. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Then Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of spring water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarrelled with Isaac's herdmen and said, "The water is ours." So he named the well Esek, because they argued with him. Then they dug another well and quarrelled over that one also, so he named it Sitnah. He moved from there and dug another, and they did not quarrel over it. He named it Rehoboth, and said, "For now the Lord has made space for us, and we will be fruitful in the land." The Lord appears to Isaac. I thought he'd done that way before. From there he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him that night and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham." So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. Isaac's servants also dug a well there. Geez, there's spring water everywhere. Covenant with Abimelech. Now Abimelech came from Gerar with Ahuzaph, his adviser, and Pekol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me? You hated me and sent me away from you." They replied, "We have clearly seen how the Lord has been with you. We think there should be an oath between two parties, between us and you. Let us make a covenant with you. You will not harm us, just as we have not harmed you, but have done only what was good for you, sending you away in peace. You are now blessed by the Lord." Yeah, like I mean, it's practically the same. Yeah. So he prepared a banquet for them, and they ate and drank. They got up early in the morning and swore an oath to each other. Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. On that same day Isaac's servants came to tell him about the well they had dug, saying to him, "We have found water." He called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is still Beersheba today. Yeah, the thing I don't remember the part in Harry Potter where Albus Dumbledore instructed all of the male students to get circumcised. But I don't know, maybe I'm just forgetting a crucial plot. And then the guy who sold his rights got some wives, and he was 40 years old. He took as his wives Judith, daughter of Beri the Hethite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hethite. They made life bitter for Isaac and Rebecca. Gee, thanks. I feel like they're just like slowly building up a load of side characters, and there's gonna be a big crossover episode soon. The Stolen Blessing, Chapter 27. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could not see, he called his older son, Esau, and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Look, I am old, and do not know the day of my death. So now take your hunting gear, your quiver and bow, and go out in the field to hunt some game for me. Then make me a delicious meal that I love, and bring it to me to eat, so that I can bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac said to his son Esau. So while Esau was in the field to hunt some game to bring in, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking with your son Esau. He said, 'Bring me game, and make me a delicious meal for me to eat, so that I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die.' Now, my son, listen to me, and do what I tell you to do. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, and I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind he loves. Then take it to your father, and eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Of course he used the bendy sticks. And remember, children, don't test if the sticks are bendy after you cut it off. Check it before. God damn it. Uh, the snake from Slytherin, they like froze it solid and sharpened it so that they could use it as a knife. Is that like is the other person that's watching Dara? I'm assuming it's Dara. I don't know. Jacob answered Rebekah, his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a man with smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver, and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." His mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me, and go get them for me." So he went and got the goats and brought them to his mother, and his mother made the delicious food his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of her older son, Esau, which were in the house, and had her younger son Jacob wear them. She put the skins on the young goats in his hands, and the smooth part of his neck. Then he handed the delicious food and the bread she had made to her son, Jacob. When he came to his father, he said, "My father," and he answered, oh yeah, obviously. You see, I am a hairy man. He is a smooth." Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so you may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, How did you ever find it so quickly, my son?" He replied, "Because the Lord, your God, made it happen for me." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come closer, so I can touch you, my son. Are you really my son, Esau, or not?" So Jacob came closer to his father Isaac. When he touched him, he said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he blessed him. Again he asked, "Are you really my son, Esau?" And he replied, "I am." How hairy are Esau's hands, where my man can wear frickin' goat hair as gloves, and the father's like, "Yep, that's how hairy my son's hands are." Like, gee, you should get that checked out. Then he said, "Bring it closer to me, and let me eat some of my son's game, so I can bless you." Jacob brought it closer to him, and he ate. He brought him wine, and he drank. Then Father Isaac said to him, "Please come closer and kiss me, my son." So he came closer and kissed him. When Isaac smelled his clothes, he blessed him, and said, "Ah, the smell of my son! It is like the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give to you from the dew of the sky, and from the richness of the land, and abundance of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you, and nations bow and worship to you. Be master over your relatives. May your mother's son bow and worship to you. Those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed." As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had left the presence of his father Isaac, his brother Esau arrived from his hunting. He had also made some delicious food and brought it to his father. He said to his father, "Let my father get up and eat some of his son's game, so you may bless me." But his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn son." Yeah, that is gay. Isaac is homosexual, confirmed. Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably. "Who was it then," he said, "who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it all before you came in, and I blessed him. Indeed, he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out with a loud and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he replied, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." So he said, "Isn't isn't he rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me twice now. He took my birthright, and look, now he has taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you saved a blessing for me?" But Isaac answered Esau, "Look, I have made him a master over you, have given him all of his relatives as his servants, and have sustained him with grain and new wine. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." And Esau wept loudly. His father Isaac answered him, "Look, your dwelling place will be away from the richness of the land, away from the dew of the sky above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. but when you rebel, you will break his yoke from your neck. Esau's anger. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him, and Esau determined his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob." When the words of her older son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she summoned her younger son Jacob, and said to him, "Listen, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. So now, my son, listen to me. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him for a few days until your brother's anger subsides, until your brother's rage turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send for you, and bring you back from there. Why should I lose you both in one day?" So Rebekah said to Isaac, "I'm sick of my life because of these Hittite girls. If Jacob marries someone from around here, like these Hittite girls, what good is my life?" I'm gonna go to the toilet real quick. So, I'm gonna put on something to entertain you. Yeah, that should be good.
Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam w krainę zapomnienia. W głowie myśli mam, kiedy skończy się ten stan, gdy już nie będę sam, bo wiedzie biały węgiel. Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam w krainę zapomnienia. W głowie myśli mam, kiedy skończy się ten stan, gdy już nie będę sam, bo wiedzie biały węgiel. Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam w krainę zapomnienia. W głowie myśli mam, kiedy skończy się ten stan, gdy już nie będę sam, bo wiedzie biały węgiel. Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam w krainę zapomnienia. W głowie myśli mam, kiedy skończy się ten stan, gdy już nie będę sam, bo wiedzie biały węgiel. Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam w krainę zapomnienia. W głowie myśli mam, kiedy skończy się ten stan, gdy już nie będę sam, bo wiedzie biały węgiel. Tylko jedno.
Right. Chapter 28. Oh, we're not even done the first book. Jacob's departure. So Isaac summoned Jacob, blessed him, and commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl. Go at once to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Marry one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, so you become an assembly of peoples. May God give you and your offspring the blessing of Abraham, so that you may possess the land where you live as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob to Padan Aram, to Laban son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, and the mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau noticed that Isaac blessed Jacob, and sent him to Padan Aram to get a wife there. When he blessed him, Isaac commanded Jacob, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl." And Jacob listened to his father and mother, and went to Padan Aram. Esau realized that his father Isaac disapproved of the Canaanite women, so Esau went to Ishmael and married, in addition to his other wives, Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. She was the sister of Nebaioth. So he just married his sister. Wonderful. Half-sister. Jacob at Bethel. Jacob left Beersheba and went towards Haran. He reached a certain place and spent the night there, because the sun had set. He took one of the stones from the place, put it there at his head, and lay down in that place. And he dreamed. A stairway was set on the ground, with its top reaching the sky, and God's angels were going up and down on it. The Lord was standing there beside him, saying, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your offspring the land on which you are lying. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out towards the west, the east, the north, and the south. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Look, I am with you, and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised to do. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid, and said, What an awesome place this is! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that was near his head, and set it up as a marker. He poured oil on top of it, and named the place Bethel, though previously the city was named Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, If God be with me, and watch over me during this journey I'm making, if he provides me with food to eat and clothing to wear, and if I return safely to my father's family, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a marker will be God's house, and I will give to you a tenth of all that you give to me. That doesn't sound like a very good deal on God's end, but whatever. Chapter 29 of the Christians. Genesis chapter 29 of the Christian Standard Bible. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jacob resumed his journey, and went to the eastern country. He looked and saw a well in a field. 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, because the sheep were watering from this well. But a large stone covered the opening of the well. The shepherds would roll the stone from the opening of the well, and water the sheep, when all the flocks were gathered there. Then they would return the stone to its place over the well's opening. That's a lot of lifting stones. Jacob asked the men at the well, My brothers, where are you from? We're from Haran, they answered. Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson? Jacob asked them. They answered, We know him. Is he well? Jacob asked. Yes, they said. And here is his daughter Rachel, coming with his sheep. Then Jacob said, Look, it is still broad daylight. It is not time for the animals to be gathered. Water the flock, then go out to let them graze. But they replied, We can't until all the flock has been gathered, and the stone is rolled from the well's opening. Then we will water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. As soon as Jacob saw his uncle Laban's daughter Rachel with his sheep, he went up and rolled the stone from the opening, and watered his uncle Laban's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel, and wept loudly. He told Rachel that he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son. She ran and told her father. I just want to make sure for a second. Okay, yeah, I was scared that it was still playing Telco Jed No Glowy Mom in the background. That would have been awkward. Jacob deceived. When Laban heard the news about his sister's son Jacob, he ran to meet him, hugged him, and kissed him. Then he took him to the house, and Jacob told him all that had happened. Laban said to him, Yes, you are my own flesh and blood. After Jacob had stayed with him a month, Laban said to him, Just because you're my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Now Laban had 2 daughters, the older one named Leah, and the younger one was named Rachel. Leah had tender eyes, but Rachel was shapely and beautiful. That's what Matthew said. Jacob loved Rachel, so he answered Laban, I'll work for you 7 years, for your younger daughter Rachel. Simp! Laban replied, Better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay with me. So Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Since my time is complete, give me my wife so I can sleep with her. So Laban invited all the men of the place and sponsored a feast. That evening Laban took his daughter Leah, and gave her to Jacob, and he slept with her. And Laban gave his slave Zilpah to his daughter Leah as her slave. When morning came, there was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What have you done to me? Wasn't it for Rachel that I worked for you? Why have you deceived me?" Laban answered, it is not the custom in our country to give the younger daughter in marriage before the firstborn. Complete this week of wedding celebration, and we will also give you this younger one in return for working yet another 7 years for me." Scammer gets scammed, Jesus Christ. And Jacob did just that. The absolute goddamn simp. I don't care about the updates. There's no X button. For Christ's sake. Just now I have to... Wow, are you proud of yourself? You made me press 2 buttons. What a absolute mild inconvenience. You stupid laptop. Well, anyways. Oh yeah, Jacob's a simp. And Jacob did just that. He finished the week of celebration, and Laban gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. And Laban gave his slave Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her slave. Jacob slept with Rachel with Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. Is it really worth it? I gotta get some water. I'm sounding like a frog again that's swallowed another frog. Okay, I'm back. This time I actually have like water beside me. When the Lord saw that Leah was neglected, he opened her womb, but Rachel was unable to conceive. Leah conceived, gave birth to a son, and named him Reuben. For she said, "The Lord has seen my afflictions. Surely my husband will love me now." She conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "The Lord heard that I am neglected, and has given me this son also." So she named him Simon. She conceived again, and gave birth to a son, and said, "At last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne 3 sons for him." Therefore he was named Levi. And she conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. And then Leah stopped having children. Um, yeah, kind of sad, to be honest. God, I can't wait for the New Testament where people have like normal names, like John and Mary, and not freaking yeah, Bilha. At least they're like semi normal now, like Rachel and Leah. Chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she envied her sister. "Give me sons, or I will die," she said to Jacob. Jacob became angry with Rachel, and said, "Am I in the place of God? Has he withheld offsprings from you?" Then she said, "Here is my maid Bilhah. Go sleep with her, and she'll bear children for me, so that through her I too can build a family." So Rachel gave her slave Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. Yes, he has heard me, and given me a son." So she named him Dan. These are the normal names I was talking about. Not like Yasu. Dan. Dan the postman from down the street. Rachel's slave Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. Rachel said, "In my wrestlings with God I have wrestled with my sister, and won." And she named him... These are the bad names I was talking about. Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her slave Zilpah, and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, "What good fortune!" And she named him Gad. Then Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Leah said, "I am happy that the woman call me happy." So she named him Asher. Reuben went out during the wheat harvest and found some mandrakes in the field. When he brought them to his mother Leah, Rachel asked, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." "Why would you want mandrakes?" But Leah replied to her, "Isn't it enough that you have taken my husband? Now you also want to take my son's mandrakes?" All he wants is some mandrakes, Jesus Christ. But Leah replied to her, "Isn't it enough that you've—" "Oh, yeah, okay." "Well then," Rachel said, "he can sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." That when Jacob came in from the... Jacob's being sold into the sex slavery industry, Jesus Christ. For some mandrakes, holy. When Jacob came in from the field that evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So Jacob slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has rewarded me for giving my slave to my husband," and she named him Issachar. Then Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob a sixth son. "God has given me a good gift," she said. "This time my husband will honour me, because I have borne 6 sons for him," and she named him Zebulun. Later Leah bore a daughter, and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her, and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son, and she said, "God has taken away my disgrace." She named him Joseph, and said, "May the Lord add another son to me." This is Jacob's flocks multiply. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way, so that I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children that I have worked for, and let me go. You know how hard I have worked for you." But Laban said to him, "If I have found favour with you, stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." Then Laban said, "Name your wages, and I will pay them." So Jacob said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your herds have fared with me, for you had very little before I came, but now your wealth has increased. The Lord has blessed you because of me, and now when will I also do something for my own family?" Laban asked, "What should I give you?" And Jacob said, "You don't need to give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I will continue to shepherd and keep your flock. Let me go through all your sheep today, and remove every sheep that is speckled or spotted, every dark-coloured sheep among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the female goats. Such will be my wages. In the future, when you have come to check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. If I have any female goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not black, they will be considered stolen." "Good," said Laban. "Let it be as you have said." That day Laban removed the streaked and spotted male goats, and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one that had any white on it, and every dark-coloured one among the lambs, and he placed his sons in charge of them. He put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob. Jacob, meanwhile, was shepherding the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob then took branches of a fresh bolar, poplar, almond, and plane wood, and peeled the bark, exposing white stripes on the branches. He set the peeled branches in the troughs in front of the sheep, in the water channels where the sheep came to drink, and the sheep bred when they came to drink. The flocks bred in front of the branches, and bore streaked, speckled, and spotted young. Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face the streaked sheep, and completely dark sheep in Laban's flocks. Then he set his own stock apart, and didn't put them in with Laban's sheep. Oh, I have 3 viewers now. That's the most I've got in a Bible stream. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob placed the branches in the troughs, in full view of the flocks, and they would breed in front of the branches. As for the weaklings of the flocks, he did not put out the branches, so it turned out that the weak sheep belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones to Jacob. And the man became very rich. He had many flocks, female and male slaves, and camels and donkeys. Chapter 21. Jacob separates from Laban. Now Jacob heard what Laban's sons were saying. Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and has built his wealth from what belonged to our family. And Jacob saw from Laban's face that his attitude towards him was not the same as before. If you'll give me 1 second, my laptop's about to die. It's going kill me, so I need to plug it in. Give me just a second. Okay, my laptop is no longer begging for death. Let's continue. And the Lord said to him, Go back to the land of your ancestors and to your family, and I will be with you. Jacob and Rachel and Leah. Jacob had Rachel and Leah called to the field where his flocks were. He said to them, I can see from your father's face that his attitude towards me is not the same as before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that with all my strength I have served your father, and that he has cheated me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God has not let him harm me. If he said, The spotted sheep will be your wages, then all the sheep were born spotted. If he said, The streaked sheep will be your wages, then all the sheep were born streaked. God has taken away your father's herds, and given them to me. Jacob's doing some goddamn admin abuse right here. When the flocks were breeding, I saw in a dream that the streaked, spotted, and speckled males were mating with the females. In that dream the angel of God said to me, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Look up and see, all the males that are mating with the flock are streaked, spotted, and speckled, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you poured oil on the stone marker, and made a solemn vow to me. Get up, leave this land, and return to your native land. Does that... What the... I am the God of Bethel. Does that imply that there's two gods? Two separate gods, one for Bethel and one for everything else? Oh dear. Then Rachel and Leah answered him, Do we have any portion or inheritance in our father's family? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? For he has sold us, and has certainly spent our purchase price. In fact, all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us, and to our children. So do whatever God has said to you. So Jacob got up, and put his children and wives on the camels. He took all the livestock and possessions he had acquired in Padan Aram, and drove his herds to go to the land of Canaan, to his father Isaac. Oh yeah, Isaac. As far as Isaac and Esau are concerned, he left and is like, okay, I'm gonna go get a wife. That was 14 years ago. Jesus. Surely Isaac's dead by now. He took all the livestock and possessions he had acquired in Padam Aram, and he drove his herds to go to the land of Canaan, to his father Isaac. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household idols, and Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean, not telling him that he was fleeing. He fled with all his possessions, crossed the Euphrates, and headed for the hill country of Gilead. Laban overtakes Jacob. On the 3rd day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his relatives with him, pursued Jacob for 7 days, and overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. When God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night, Watch yourself, God warned him. Don't say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban and his relatives also pitched their tents in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, What have you done? You have deceived me, and taken my daughters away like prisoners of war. Why did you secretly flee from me, deceive me, and not tell me? I would have sent you away with joy and singing, with tambourines and lyres. You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters. You've acted foolishly. I could do you great harm, but last night the Lord, the God of your father, said to me, watch yourself, don't say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you've gone off because you long for your father's family, but why have you stolen my gods? Jacob answered, I was afraid, for I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. If you find your gods with anyone here, he will not live. Before our relatives, point out anything that is yours and take it. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. Whew, Rachel's about to die. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, Leah's tent, and the tents of the two concubines, but he found nothing. When he left Leah's tent, he went into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken Laban's household idols, put them in the saddle-bag of the camel, and sat on them. Laban searched the whole tent, but found nothing. She said to her father, Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I am having my period. So Laban searched, but could not find the household idols. Jacob's covenant with Laban. What is it with people in the Bible and their covenants? Then Jacob became incensed, and brought charges against Laban. What is my crime? He said to Laban. What is my sin, that you have pursued me? You searched all of my possessions. Have you found anything of yours? Put it here before my relatives and yours, and let them decide between the two of us. I've been with you 20 years. Your ewes and female goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. I did not bring you any of the flock torn by wild beasts. I myself bore the loss. You demanded payment from me for what was stolen by day or by night. There I was. The heat consumed me by day, and the frost by night, and sheep fled from my eyes. For 20 years in your household I served you, 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks. And you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, had not been with me, certainly now you would have sent me off empty-handed, but God has seen my affliction and my hard work, and he issued his verdict last night. Then Laban answered Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, the children my children, and the flocks my flocks. Everything you see is mine. What can I do today for these daughters of mine, or for the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I. Let it be witness between the two of us. So Jacob picked out a stone and set it up as a marker. And Jacob said to his relatives, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a mound, and ate there by the mound. Laban named the mound Jagar Sahadutha, but Jacob named it Gilead. Then Laban said, This mound is a witness between you and me today. Therefore the place was called Gilead, and also Mizpah, for he said, May the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or take other wives, though no one is with us, understand that God will be a witness between you and me. Laban also said to Jacob, Look at this mound and the marker I set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and the marker is a witness, and that I will not pass beyond this mound to you, and you will not pass beyond this mound and this marker to do me harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, will judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain, and invited his relatives to eat a meal. They ate a meal and spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early in the morning, kissed his grandchildren and daughters, and blessed them. Then Laban left to return home. Man, this Bible lore is getting really intense. Right, chapter 32. I want to get to, like, at the very least 40, right? Yeah, at the very least I want to get to 40. Yeah, if I were to get to 40, it would be 10 more chapters, then I'd be done Genesis. Chapter 32, Preparing to meet Esau. Jacob went on his ways, and God's angels met him. When he saw them, Jacob said, "This is God's camp." So he called that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the territory of Edom. He commanded them, You're to say to my lord Esau, this is what your servant Jacob says. I have been staying with Laban, and have been delayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female slaves. I have sent this message to inform my lord, in order to seek your father. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, We went to your brother Esau. He is coming to meet you, and he has 400 men with him. Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people with him into 2 camps, along with the flocks, herds, and camels. He thought, If Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, the remainder can escape. Oh, you're back, right? Have you been AFK for a long time? What was the last thing you remember? I'll catch you up to speed. He thought, if Esau comes to one camp and attacks it, the remainder can escape. You know, there's quite a bit of a delay here. What was the last thing you remember? Quite a bit. I'll catch you up to speed. We wouldn't want Tommy missing out on any of his sweet, sweet Bible lore. You know, there's quite a bit of a delay. Okay, never mind then. Basically, what's happened really recently is, yeah, Jacob's going, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay. So they're being attacked, well, potentially. Then Jacob said, God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, go back to your land and to your family, and I will cause you to prosper. I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. Indeed, I crossed over the Jordan with my staff, and now I have come to 2 camps. Please rescue me from my brother Esau, for I am afraid of him. Otherwise, he might come and attack me, the mothers, and their children. You have said, I will cause you to prosper, and I will make your offspring like the sands of the sea, too numerous to be counted. That's what they said about the offspring of everyone else before him, but they're not numerous. There's like 4 of them. He spent the night there and took part of what he had brought with him as a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. No, that's a lot of animals. He entrusted them to his slaves as separate herds, and said to them, Go on ahead of me, and leave some distance between the herds. And he told the first one, When my brother Esau meets you and asks, Who do you belong to? Where are you going? And whose animals are these ahead of you? Then tell him, They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau. And look, he is behind us. He also told the second one, the third, and everyone who was walking behind the animals, Say the same thing to Esau when you find him. You are also to say, Look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I want to appease Esau with the gift that is going ahead of me. After that I can face him, and perhaps he will forgive me. So the gift was sent on ahead of him, while he remained in camp that night. During the night Jacob got up, and took his 2 wives, his 2 slave women, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, along with all his possessions. Jacob wrestles with God. Jesus Christ, that's metal as hell. He just... What? How do you wrestle with God? I'm imagining like a physical WWE, like hitting each other with chairs and stuff. Jesus Christ. I'm sure it's like some Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So, I'm struggling with really, I don't know. Um, Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he could not defeat him, he struck Jacob's hip socket, and as they wrestled, and dislocated his hip. Then he said to Jacob, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." What? This is so out of the blue. But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. "Jacob," he replied. "Your name will not longer be Jacob. He said, "it will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed." Then Jacob said to him, "Please tell me your name." But he answered, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him there. Jacob then named the place Peniel, "For I have seen God face to face," he said, "yet my life has been spared." The sun shone on him, and he passed by Peniel, limping because of his hip. That is why, still today, the Israelites don't eat the thigh muscle that is at the hip socket, because he struck Jacob's hip socket at the thigh muscle. That's a very weird reason not to eat something. Right, chapter 33. I'm gonna go to about 35, I think. Maybe, no, yeah, 40. I'm gonna go to 40. What time's it? Oh, it's getting late. Jacob meets Esau. Now Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming towards him with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two slave women. He put the slaves and their children first, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead and bowed to the ground 7 times until he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, hugged him, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Then they wept. When Esau looked up and saw the women and children, he asked, "Who are these with you?" He answered, "The children of God has graciously given your servant." Then the slaves and the children approached him and bowed down. Leah and her children also approached and bowed down, and then Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. So Esau said, "What do you mean by the whole procession I met?" "To find favour with you, my lord," he answered. "I have enough, my brother," Esau replied. "Keep what you have." But Jacob said, "No, please, if I have found favour with you, take this gift from me. For indeed I have seen your face, and it is like seeing God's face, since you have accepted me. Please take my present that was brought to you, because God has been gracious to me, and I have everything I need." So Jacob urged him until he accepted. Then Esau said, "Let's move on, and I'll go ahead of you." Jacob replied, "My lord knows that the children are weak, and I have nursing flocks and herds. If they are driven hard for one day, the whole herd will die. Let my lord go ahead of his servant. I will continue on slowly, at a pace suited to the livestock and the children, until I come to my lord at Seir." Esau said, "Let me leave some of my people with you." What? But he replied, "Why do that? Please indulge me, my lord." That day Esau started on his way back to Seir, but Jacob went to Succoth. He built a house for himself and shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was called Succoth. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he safely arrived at Shechem in the land of Canaan and camped in front of the city. He purchased a section of the field where he had pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of silver. 100 shiny schmeckles, that's a lot of money. And he set up an altar there and called it God, the God of Israel. I'm sorry, but are you worshipping a false idol? Are you? Not what I thought. Chapter 24. Dinah defiled. Who is Dinah? Leah's daughter Dinah, okay, well, I probably should have read that, whom Leah bore to Jacob, went out to see some of the young women of the area. When Shechem, son of Hamor the Hivite, who was the region's chieftain, saw her, he took her and knew her. He became infatuated with Jacob's daughter Dinah. He loved the young girl and spoke tenderly to her. "Get me this girl as a wife," he told his father. Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were with his livestock in the field, he remained silent until they returned. Meanwhile, Shechem's father Hamor came to speak with Jacob. Jacob's sons returned from the field when they heard about the incident. They were deeply grieved and very angry, for Shechem had committed an outrage against Israel by knowing Jacob's daughter, and such a thing should not be done. Hamor said to Jacob's son, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Live with us. The land is before you. Settle here, move about, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's fathers and brothers, "Grant me this favour, and I'll give you whatever you say. Demand of me a high compensation and gift, and I'll give you whatever you ask. Just give the girl to be my wife." But Jacob's son answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. "We cannot do this thing," they said to him. "Giving our sister to an uncircumcised man is a disgrace to us. We will agree with you only on this one condition. If all your males are circumcised, as we are, then we will give you your daughters. Take your daughters for ourselves, live with you, and become one people. But if you do not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughters and go." Again, why is everyone in the Bible so damn obsessed with circumcision? I will never know. Their words seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man did not delay doing this, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most important in all his father's family, so Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city. "These men are peaceful towards us," they said. "Let them live in our land and move about in it, for indeed the region is large enough for them. Let's take their daughters as our wives and give our daughters to them. But the men will agree to live with us and be one people, only on this condition: if all our men are circumcised as they are. Won't their livestock, their possessions, and all their animals become ours? Only let's agree with them, and they will live with us." All the men who had come to the city gates listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and all those men were circumcised. On the third day, when they were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords, went into the unsuspecting city, and killed every male. Oh no, oh dear. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with their swords, took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went away. Jacob's sons came to the slaughter and plundered the city, because their sister had been defiled. They took their flocks, herds, donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the field. They captured all their possessions, dependents, and wives, and plundered everything in the houses. Just because one guy messed up, you don't have to slaughter them all like Anakin and the younglings. Jesus Christ. Then Jacob said to Simon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me, making me odious to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. We are few in number. If they unite against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they answered, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" Good question, they. Next chapter. Chapter 25. The Return to Bethel. God said to Jacob, "Get up, go to Bethel, and settle there. Build an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his family and all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods that are among you. Purify yourselves and change your clothes. We must get up and go to Bethel. I will build an altar there to the God who answered me in the day of my distress. He has been with me everywhere I have gone. Then they gave Jacob all of their foreign goods and their earrings, and Jacob hid them under the oak near Shechem. I thought Shechem was murdered, just like near his corpse. When they set out, a terror from God came over the cities around them. They did not pursue Jacob's sons. So Jacob and all who were with him came to Luz, that is, Bethel, in the land of Canaan. Jacob built an altar there and called the place El Bethel. Wow, because it was there that God had revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Deborah, the one who had nursed and raised Rebekah, died and was buried under the oak south of Bethel, so Jacob named it Allon Bacuth. God appeared to Jacob again after he returned from Padan Aram, and he blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. You will no longer be named Jacob, but your son will be Israel. But your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. I thought his name was already Israel. Like, wasn't he told by God that before? God also said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation, indeed, an assembly of nations will come from you, and kings will descend from you. I will give to you the land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac, and I will give the land to your future descendants." And God withdrew from him at the place where he had spoken to him. God has made that promise to just about every main character in this story, and he hasn't followed through once. Not a single time. It's scam. He's a scammer. He's scamming. He's scamming scammers. Jacob set up a marker at the place where he had spoken to him, a stone marker. He poured a drink offering on it and poured oil on it. Jacob named the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. Rachel's death. Oh no. Oh dearie me. Rachel's about to get murked. They set out from Bethel. When they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, her labor was difficult. During her difficult labor, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." With her last breath, for she was dying, she named him Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. Oh, oh, your dying wish is to name your son Benoni. But the lad's like, "No, Benjamin. Why would you name him Benjamin? Benoni's so much cooler." He's like almost like Ben Kenobi, but like Step Ben. That's literally what that translates to. So Rachel died and was buried up on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a marker on her grave. It is the marker at Rachel's grave still today. Israel's sons. Israel set out again and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard about it. Jacob had 12 sons. Leah's sons were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Rachel's sons were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's slave Bilhah were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's slave Zilpah were Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Isaac's death. Oh no. Jacob came to his father as Isaac at Mamre in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. He took his last breath and died, and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. His sons Esau and Jacob buried him. You know what? Like in the bit where he was like blessing them, he was like, "Oh, I don't have much time left." But he had like a good another 30 years left in him. Jesus. Right? Are there any Footnotes are probably not worth reading. Chapter 26. Isu's family. These are the family records of Isu, that is, Edom. Isu took his wives from the Canaanite women, Adar, daughter of Elon the Hethite, not saying that, daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Basemath, daughter of Ishmael, the son of Nebaioth. Adah bore Eliphaz to Isu. Basemath bore Reuel, and not saying that, bore Jush, Jalam, and Korah. These were Isu's sons, who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Isu took his wives, sons, and daughters, and all the people of his households, as well as his herds, all his livestock, and all the property he had acquired in Canaan. And he went to a land to live together, and because of their herds, the land where they stayed could not support them. So Isu, I'm not reading all this, because that's, yeah, this is just a lot of, okay, that's just a whole lot of saying that the people invited for Christmas dinner, goddammit. Give me chapter 37. That was a quick chapter. Chapter 37. Joseph's Dreams. Joseph lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. These are the family records of Jacob. At 17 years of age, Joseph tended sheep with his brothers. The young man was working with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought a bad report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than his other sons, because Joseph was the son born to him in his old age, and he made a long-sleeved robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him, and could not bring themselves to speak peaceably to him. Then Joseph had a dream. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to him, "Listen to this dream I had. There we were, binding sheaves of grain in the field. Suddenly my sheaf stood up, and all your sheaves gathered around it, and bowed down to my sheaf." "Are you really going to reign over us?" his brother asked him. "Are you really going to rule us?" So they hated him even more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and told it to his brothers. "Look," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars and 11 stars were bowing down to me. Only 11, not any others, just 11. He told his father and brothers, and his father rebuked him. "What kind of dream is this that you have had?" he said. "Am I and your mother and your brothers really going to come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph sold into slavery. That escalated quite quickly. His brothers had gone to pasture their father's flocks at Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Your brothers, are pasturing the flocks at Shechem. Get ready. I'm sending you to them." "I'm ready," Joseph replied. Then Israel said to him, "Go and see how your brothers and their flocks are doing, and bring word back to me." So he sent them from Hebron Valley, and he went to Shechem. A man found him. "I'm looking for my brothers," Joseph said. "Can you tell me where they are pasturing their flocks?" "They've moved on from here," the man said. "I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph set out after his brothers, and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he had reached them, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, "Oh, look, here comes that dream expert. So now, come on, let's kill him, and throw him into one of the pits. We can say that a vicious animal ate him, and then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." When Reuben heard this, he tried to save him from them. He said, "Let's not take his life." Reuben also said to them, "Don't shed blood. Throw him into this pit in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him," intending to rescue him from them and return him to his father. When Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped off Joseph's robe, the robe of many colors that he had on. Then they took him and threw him into the pit. The pit was empty, without water. They sat down to eat a meal, and when they looked up, there was a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were carrying aromatic gum, balsam, and resin, going down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, What do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come on, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay a hand on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers agreed. When Midianite traders passed by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him for 20 shiny shekels to the Ishmaelites, who took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, The boy is gone. What am I going to do? So they took Joseph's robe, slaughtered a male goat, and dipped the robe in its blood. They sent the long-sleeved robe to their father and said, We find this. Examine it. Is it your son's robe or not? His father recognized it. It is my son's robe, he said. And then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth around his waist, and mourned for his son for many days. All his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. He said, No, I will go down to Sheol to my son, mourning. And his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guards. Chapter 38. Oh boy. Genesis chapter 38. Oh no. If I sneeze, the audio is gonna be loud. Only 3 left, and then I'm done for today. At that time, Judah left his brothers and settled near an Adulamite named Terah. There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite named Shua. He took her as a wife and slept with her. She conceived and gave birth to a son, and he named him She conceived again, gave birth to a son, and named him Onan. She gave birth to another son, and named him Shelah. It was Shezib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. Now Judah's firstborn, was evil in the Lord's sight, and the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, Sleep with your brother's wife, perform your duty as her brother-in-law, and produce offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he released his semen on the ground so it would not produce offspring for his brother. What he did was evil in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death also. Get wrecked. Then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up. For he thought he might die too, like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had finished mourning, he and his friend Terah and Adulamite went up to Timnah to his sheep shearers. Tamar was told, Your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she took off her widow's clothes, veiled her face, covered herself, and sat at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the way to Timnah. For she saw that, though Shelah had grown up, she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. He went over to her and said, Come, let me sleep with you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, What will you give me for sleeping with me? I will send you a young goat from my flock, he replied. But she said, Only if you leave something with me until you send it. What should I give you? He asked. She answered, Your signet ring, your cord, and the staff in your hand. So he gave them to her, and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. She got up and left, and then removed her veil and put her widow's clothes back on. Then Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Edomite, in order to get back the items he had left with the woman. He could not find her. He asked the men of the place, "Where is the cult prostitute who is beside the road of Enaim?" "There has been no cult prostitute here," they answered. The Edomite returned to Judah, saying, "I couldn't find her, and besides, the men of the place said, there has been no cult prostitute here." Judah replied, "Let her keep the items for herself, otherwise we will become a laughing stock. After all, I did send this young goat, but you couldn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law, Tamar, has been acting like a prostitute, and now she is pregnant." "Bring her out," Judah said, "and let her be burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent her father-in-law this message, "I am pregnant by the man to whom these items belong," and she added, "Examine them. Whose signet ring, cord, and staff are these?" Judah recognized them and said, "She is more in the right than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah," and he did not know her intimately again. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twins in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand, and the midwife took it and tied a scarlet thread around it, announcing, "This one came out first." But when he pulled his hand back, out came his brother, and she said, "What a breakout you have made for yourself." So he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread tied to his hand, came out and was named Zerah. How long has the stream been so far? 1 hour 16 minutes. By the way, someone very recently unsubscribed, and it's made me very sad. Very, very sad indeed. I keep having dreams where I check YouTube and I've gained 3 subscribers, and then I wake up and it's not real, and I can't tell whether or not I actually had 22 and then lost one, or it was just a dream. I don't know. I'm going crazy. Chapter 39, 2 more. Joseph in Potiphar's house. Now Joseph had been taken to Egypt. An Egyptian named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, and the captain of the guards, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, serving in the household of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made everything he did successful, Joseph found favor with his master, and became his personal attendant. Potiphar also put him in charge of his household, and placed all that he owned under his authority. I can't talk. All that he owned under his authority. Where is that? What? There. From the time that he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the Egyptian house because of Joseph. The Lord's blessing was on all that he owned, in his house and in his fields. He left all that he owned under Joseph's authority. He did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. After some time his master's wife looked longingly at Joseph and said, "Sleep with me." But he refused. "Look," he said to his master's wife, "after Stream Realm? No, unfortunately. It's quite late." But he refused. "Look," he said to his master's wife, "with me here my master does not concern himself with anything in his house, and he has to put all that he owns under my authority. No one in this house is greater than I am. He has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. So how could I do this immense evil, and how could I sin against God?" Although she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her. Now one day he went into the house to do his work, and none of the household servants were there. She grabbed him by his garment and said, "Sleep with me." But leaving his garment in her hand, he escaped and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment with her and had run outside, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "my husband brought a Hebrew man to make fools of us." He came to me so he could sleep with me, and I screamed as loud as I could. When he heard me screaming for help, he left his garment beside me and ran outside. And this happens in real life today. She put Joseph's garment beside her until his master came home. She told him the same story. The Hebrew slave you brought to us came to make a fool of me, but when I screamed for help he left his garment beside me and ran outside. When his master heard the story his wife told him, "These are the things your slave did to me," he was furious and had him thrown into prison, where the king's prisoners were confined. So Joseph was there in prison. Joseph in prison. The Lord was with Joseph, and extended kindness to him. He granted him favor with the prison warden. The warden put all the prisoners who were in the prison under Joseph's authority, and he was responsible for everything that was done there. The warden did not bother with anything under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and the Lord made everything that he did successful. Chapter 40. I'm going to read this, and that's going to be us. Joseph interprets two prisoners' dreams. After this, the king of Egypt's cupbearer and baker offended their masters, the king of Egypt. The Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain, the guards, and the prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guards assigned Joseph to them as a personal attendant, and they were in custody for some time. The king of Egypt's cupbearer and baker, who were confined in the prison, each had a dream. Both had a dream on the same night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they looked distraught, so he asked the Pharaoh's officer, who were in custody with him in the master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We had dreams," they said to him, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, Don't interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph. "In my dream, there is a vine in front of us. On the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms came out, and clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." This is its interpretation, Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. In just 3 days the Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position. You will put the Pharaoh's cup in his hand, the way you used to when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well for you, remember that I was with you. Please show kindness to me by mentioning me to the Pharaoh, to get me out of this prison, for I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing that they should put me in the dungeon." Oh, I can't talk. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was positive, he said to Joseph, "I also had a dream. 3 baskets of white bread were on my head. In the top basket there were all sorts of baked goods for the Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head." "This is its interpretation," Joseph replied. "The 3 baskets are 3 days. In just 3 days the Pharaoh will lift up your head from off you and hang you on a tree. Then the birds will eat the flesh from your body." On the 3rd day, which was the Pharaoh's birthday, he gave a feast for all his servants. He elevated the chief cupbearer and chief baker among his servants. Pharaoh restored the chief cupbearer to his position as a cupbearer, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But Pharaoh hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had explained to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. Well, ladies and gentleladies, boys and girls, that's the end of the stream. That's all the Bible. That's all